Hey guys, in my last video we started looking at the CSS box model and the various types of borders in CSS, as you can see over here, and how to style them. Now in this video we are going to continue to look at the CSS box model, and I am going to talk about margins and paddings in CSS. Now before I talk about anything, let's delete all these except for the dotted and the solid ones, so I could use these two as an example. There we go, and also here. So now we only have two, dotted and solid. Okay, now remember we said that, or I said that the CSS box model considers each tags to be surrounded by a box. So basically this is a dotted border which is surrounded by the B tag, is surrounded by a dot box, and as well as this one. And we've customized how the border of the box looks. Excuse me. Now margin changes the position of the box itself, which results in changing the position of what's inside the box. However, unlike specifying pixel saying I want it to be 100 pixels left and 300 pixels from the top, and say here we say that we want it to move 30 pixels, move 20 pixels, and so on. So what it does is, right now we have this space between this dotted border and this solid border, and at the same time we have this small space between the side of the website or the browser and the left side of the border, as well as the right. What we could do is create more space in between these four sides. That's what it does. It creates, or you can reduce space, so you can specify the space between the border and something above, below, or the left or the right to it. Now let's start moving our solid border. So I go over here, create some space, and what we say is margin to be 30 pixels. I chose a relatively big number so that you can easily see this moving. So I save my work and refresh. There we go. Sorry, I've got something in my throat. What it did was it created a 30 pixel space between the top two, the left side of the border and the browser wall, the right side of the border and the browser wall, and if there were anything below this is a solid border B tag, we also created a space in between that. Let's quickly copy that, paste that, take away the ID, and say this is a paragraph so you can actually see. Save and refresh. Now as you can see, the space in between these two is exactly the same as the space between these two, because we have set margin to be 30 pixels. What that does is you give 30 pixels to all four sides of it from the border of the box. Now we could specify which no, by default when we only say 30 pixels or give it one number, you do it to all four sides. Now if we do it to if we give it two numbers, say for example 30 pixels and then 50 pixels, what that does is, for the first number, which is 30 pixels, that is going to be used on the top and bottom. So the top and the bottom margin is going to be 30 pixels. However, the 50 pixel is going to be used for the right and left. So if I refresh this box is going to be smaller because there's going to be 50 pixels in between the browser wall and this left border, and it's the same thing on the right. So let's refresh And there we go. We now have 30 pixels space in between the top and the bottom, and we have a 50 pixel space in between the left and the right. So that's what happens when we write two numbers. What it does is it gives, for the first number, the first number is used on the top and the bottom, and the second number is used for the left and the right. Now, what if we use three numbers? Say, for example, this one, we could make it 100 pixels. Oops, there we go. What that does is, for the top one, it's still 30 pixels. So the first number is used on the top, and the second number is used on both sides. So that doesn't change as well. Okay? So it's still 50 pixels. Now the third number is going to be used on the bottom margin. So the space between these two is going to be bigger, like so. Because it used to be 30 pixels and now it's 100 pixels, this is a paragraph. Text moves significantly. Now, I hope you're starting to see a pattern here, but then what if I change, I add a fourth number to it, say 10 pixels. What that does is now this one is going to work on the the left margin. So if we refresh, the space in between these two, I hope you can see my mouse, is going to reduce from 50 pixels to 10 pixels, like so. Now if I make this clearly, I don't need you. Okay, now we have a margin property and we are going to give it some value. So we say 10 pixels. Now what that does is that we look at the margins as top, right, bottom, left. Okay, in this order. So when we have one number specifying the margin, so in this case 10 pixels, that is going to work on all top, right, bottom and left. Now if we give it a second number, say 20 pixels, now the 10 pixels is going to work on the top and the bottom, but then the right and the left is now going to change to 20 pixels. Now if we have a third number, say 30 pixels, now the bottom one is going to change. Okay, hope you're following my relatively bad, I hope it's not bad, explanation. So when we have three numbers, the third one is going to be used on this one. And then when we have a fourth number, let's say 40 pixels, and don't need you, and put it here, then that is going to be used on this. So for the first number is going to be used on the top, the second on the right, the third on the bottom, and the fourth on the left. Okay, so let's delete that. And that's how to change the margin on each side. Now we could use another method to specifically change one side of the margin. So for example, we have a margin of 30 pixels. Let's refresh that. There we go. And we want to give it more space between the first, this is a dotted border text, and this is a solid border text over here. So this is this is the top margin. So what we could do is say margin top, and we could specify a number, say 100 pixels. Sorry. Now if we refresh this, we are going to have 100 pixels margin on the top, but the right, bottom or the left doesn't change. This is because we've specified the top of the margin to be 100 pixels, and you can also do it to margin right, margin left and margin bottom. Oops, bottom. And all we do is say 10 pixels, 20 pixels, 50 pixels, and now all of them is going to change. There we go. Now we specify the margin to be 30 pixels, but then because of the CSS priority and the overriding rule, now the top is going to be 100 pixels, the right is going to be 10, the left is going to be 20, and the bottom is going to be 50 because all of those are written underneath the margin. So it gets overridden, which is why the border or the box moved. So that was a quick video on margins in CSS. It's already gone over 10 minutes, so in my next video I will talk about padding in CSS. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.